You're listening to Linked AM. Tell your story on Linked Live and get noticed. You're listening to Carl Wolfenden on the Business Class Show and is not always affiliated with the guests and the topics discussed. Any financial statements are the opinions of the individual, and you should seek professional advice before making any decisions. Upgrade your listening to Business Class, the show that puts you in the big leather comfy seats. So sit back and enjoy our take on the trending business issues of the week.
Howdy, folks. Here he is, the Texas Brit, the guy with the stiff upper lip, filling his 10-gallon hat and his cowboy boots, Carl Wolfenden.
Good morning, and welcome to Linked AM. And we've been talking about back to space. We've been talking about walking on the moon. You might have remembered the segment I did with Michael Gorton. We were talking about we could be listening to Sting playing "Walking on the Moon" and actually walk on the moon. Well, that's what we want to continue that conversation, because as you saw in some of my posts that I did on LinkedIn and Facebook and Twitter, it just exploded because my team were like, we got to get this story out. And of course, we were featuring it on Business Class News about the fact that we are involved in this project and this great organization called Back to Space. So, we've had Michael actually on the show, and we've spoken to Danielle Rusa, of course, as well, who has got the passion and the vision behind this whole organization. We spoke to her, but I wanted to get down into the weeds and talk about technology. So who better to have on than Eric Lennington? Hello, Eric. You're on the show now. How are you today?
Good morning, Carl. How are you today?
Fantastic. Of course, you're the Chief Technology Officer of this fantastic, venture, this destination that I talked about on the show with Michael, called the Lunar Landscape Experience. So, I'm every time I see the renderings of this, it just blows me away, because they're renderings, but there's a lot of thought gone into, isn't it? The actual, what the guts of what's going to be inside it.
Absolutely. Yeah,
so
absolutely.
what have you got planned for the Lunar Landscape Experience that you can share with us?
Well, the first part, of course, since it is called the Lunar Landscape Experience, the centerpiece of it is a 65,000 square foot scale model of the surface of the moon that you can see when you look up in the sky at night. Okay, which of course is the only surface that everyone except about 24 people have ever seen, right?
Yeah.
So basically, that makes up the middle of the facility, and then if you look at the renderings, of course, it is surrounded by other structures. Okay, and the lunar landscape surface itself will really be walkable and explorable. It's hard to envision the scale, but you can think of it in terms of 2/3 of an American football field. Okay, so I mean it's quite large, and the surface is that this is one of the interesting things about this whole project is that we've had to develop a lot of the technology necessary to produce and construct the facility, because we're not building a hotel. We're not building a strip mall here. We're building something that's never been built before. And as a result, we go and say, okay, how do we put the image of the surface of the moon on this giant concrete pad? And the answer is, well, no one's ever done that before. So we have to figure out how to do it. And that's been part of the technical challenges just with that one element of the facility itself is, what is the mechanism to do that? And we've looked at a lot of different things, and I won't tell you what we've decided on, because it's interesting and proprietary enough that we're even considering what else we might do it from a commercialization.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. That's Perfect.
Not that everybody needs to be making scale models of the moon, but there are other applications for this technology. And so we've had to develop some completely new technologies to do this. So that's one aspect of it, is just the ability to walk on the surface of the moon. We're using imagery from NASA. There's been a couple of different missions. The main one is called the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter. You may be familiar with that one.
Mm-hmm.
And it has taken it is, I believe it's still in orbit, but I'd have to double check that, but it's been in orbit for many years around the moon. And it's been mapping the surface of the moon at a detail level. And I'm going to forget now the exact, but I want to say it's down to 10 centimeters.
Oh my goodness.
The imagery that we have, and of course, thanks to NASA and thanks to the fact that NASA is, it's owned by the American people, all of the research and all the data and all the imagery that they produce is available for anybody to use. So we're able to go and use that imagery. We're able to transfer that lunar imagery, which is actually photographs from lunar orbit, onto the surface of our moon, moon landscape, and the quality of it, the realism of it, it's really breathtaking. To test our technology, we've made like some 10 by 10 sections of it, and when you stand on it, it's quite interesting because you really do feel like you're in this alien space. So it's very interesting. The other thing I would say about the surface of the moon, number one, we will use it for more than just wandering around on. So it'll be a lot of fun to wander around on it, but we're incorporating augmented reality into it. And we've got a couple of different angles of attack for this, but depending upon the particular media content, okay, which this will change. And that's one of the beauties, and I'll tell you a few other things in a minute, but one of the things that this facility as a cornerstone is that it will be constantly changing. And one of the ways, and I think Michael may have mentioned this too, that we are creating this environment that can constantly change is we're making use of video immersion. Which you're not wearing a headset or glasses or anything. You're just in a space that you are surrounded by seamless video projection, and you feel like you're really there. It's quite amazing. It's
Isn't it the holodeck? Those are the holodecks.
Well, but it's not quite that good. Maybe we'll get there at some point. The closest I could probably get you to it is if you've been in an IMAX theater.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where the idea is you're completely surrounded. Your field of view is completely taken up by the video, and it's a different sensation. It's a different level of immersion than watching something even on a big screen TV or even in a flat screen movie theater. Yeah. And so this is almost taking that to one step further, where it's not just that your field of view is completely saturated, but as you look around the room, there's no place you can look where you're not in this immersive experience.
Right.
Okay. And so we have lots of ideas. We're working with a number of different partners that basically are producers of these types of video content. We will have cases where, people might be having a meal while orbiting above Jupiter.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I've actually done this. It's quite amazing. I mean, you're looking around and it's like you're on a glass floor and you're orbiting above Jupiter.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the really great thing is that, of course, you're not really orbiting above Jupiter, but the video that we're using actually came from Jupiter.
Right.
It's not a special effect. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's actual footage from in this case, from the Juno probe, that we're able to repurpose in this way to let people have that experience long before there'll be anybody from Earth going to Jupiter.
That's amazing.
So,
you see, this is what I love listening to, because I think that the word that keeps cropping up when I'm in conversations with people, with corporations, with CEOs, with CTOs, it's about innovation. And innovation is the key sort of thread that goes through all of this, because there's corporations out there that are trying to be innovative because they're trying to be, ahead of the market curve, etc. And you're being innovative in the destination space because the thing that I know, because I've worked with attractions around the world, because I used to do live shows from attractions. That's how I started my own career off. And so I used to go to these attractions. Is the key and the magic is how do you keep changing it up a bit so that it is changing, and it appeals for somebody to come back again and again and again. And so you're combining this learning sort of environment with this destination environment where people want to come back because it is changing. I love that.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think, that really has been really one of the most challenging aspects of this from a design standpoint, is that we're not really designing to a particular endpoint in mind. We're designing an environment that allows us to change it over time. And we don't know everything that we're going to change it to. We don't know every possible experience that we're going to be able to have. But we wanted to create the technical infrastructure and the physical infrastructure within this facility that allows us to have almost that palette to be able to paint new things on over time. And so that's a big part of this concept of using the video immersion, using just, again, the physical space within the facility in ways that we can repurpose. Again, we're not just building a landscape of the moon. That's great. But once you've been there once, you don't need to go back again, right? But we're building a facility that uses that as a centerpiece for all these other activities that we sometimes will leverage that very big centerpiece, and sometimes we won't leverage it. It'll be on the periphery of the facility, but we'll be able to create really interesting and constantly new experiences for people to come back many, many times.
Well, I mean, again, it seemed to be a common thing when I was talking to Michael and I was talking to Danielle, was this thing. If a student comes through and experiences something that is something they want to touch and engage with, and it changes their perception. And I talked about it with Danielle. There's sometimes you have a path and then you've got a fork in the road and you can go one way or the other. But if there's something that touches you and you go, I want to go that way. That's what we want to achieve, isn't it? With the Lunar Landscape Experience, we want to be able to do that.
It is, and so I've been a tech guy my whole life, and I was born during and grew up with the Apollo program. So NASA has always been very, space exploration in general has always been something that's been part of my world, but it's not part of everybody's world. And especially today, and I think, I don't know if Danielle shared this with you, but, the inflection point for her that led her to found this organization originally is that her peers, she's in her mid-20s now, her peers could not name a single Apollo astronaut.
Right.
And I mean, conceptually, the most outstanding, amazing achievement of humans ever. And people that are in their mid-20s don't know anything about it.
Right.
Okay. And so there's two purposes ultimately to the whole organization. And the Lunar Landscape Experience is a manifestation of those two purposes. One is we absolutely do want to reach out to, I'll call it the next generation, right? The people that are students now, kids that are in middle school and high school, that they're wondering what they want to major in. A lot of them don't know.
Yep.
Let's face it, a lot of people graduate from high school not knowing what they want to major in, okay? Because as you said, they haven't, for whatever reason, they haven't been exposed to, they haven't experienced that spark that makes them go, wow, now that's really interesting. I want to know more about that, okay? And so that's a big part of it, is we want to provide those experiences. We want to make it fun and engaging and entertaining, but we're also going to teach you some things too. You're also learning the physics of why motion works or doesn't work in a certain way, okay? And so at the end of the day, that's a big focus, is we do want to inspire students to look at STEM fields, okay? we know that everybody that comes to the Lunar Landscape Experience is not going to become an astronaut, but that is absolutely not an objective, okay? But if you think about just the Apollo program, which of course is one tiny aspect of all of the things that's going on in space exploration and in STEM in general, because that of course goes well beyond that. If you look at that, 24 people went to the moon. 400,000 people worked to send them to the moon.
Absolutely. There's a team.
Okay.
Yep.
It's a team. And there was everything from artists and mathematicians and scientists and seamstresses and material scientists. I mean, there's in that 400,000 people, there's tens of thousands of different specialties. And that's a big part of this is we want to show, again, talking about students as a group right now, we want to show them that there's a lot of opportunities in space exploration. Number one, we're kind of in a new space race right now. It's different than the Soviet Union and the Americans back in the 60s, but it is a space race, very much so right now. It's just a different kind. But also the fact that STEM goes well beyond space, number one, and number two, that even within something that is rocket science, quite literally, there's also a lot of need for people with other kinds of skills that may not be necessarily that mathematics specialty or that propulsion specialty, but there's a lot of things that are needed here, a lot of skill sets that are needed. So we want to encourage students to look at this. The second audience, though, is the general public. Because one of the other things is, now you said earlier you're kind of a techno geek or techno nerd or something, yep. Right? But there's a lot of people in this world and in this country that this is not what they're exposed to every day, okay? And they look at things that NASA is doing that they see in a glimpse every once in a while. And you get comments from people like, why are we spending billions of dollars to send probes to Mars? We have problems here on Earth, okay? And of course, that that's kind of the whole point, okay? By doing the things that we're doing, this bleeding edge research, sending probes to Mars and putting up, the space station and all the research and all the science that comes out of this, okay? It absolutely helps people on Earth every single day. Okay, because we learn things from doing this that we probably wouldn't have learned any other way. Fun fact, the camera on everybody's phone was invented because of NASA.
Right.
They needed an imaging device that they could use to put on deep space probes. And there was nothing quite available, okay? But nobody knows that.
Right.
Everybody has a phone, but nobody knows that the reason they have a phone is because of NASA.
Right, yeah. Well, you're absolutely right. And people do take for granted a lot of the things that we use day to day or we see day to day, but they don't realize that it's like anything, isn't it? If you don't start to experiment and start to do things and learn and then take those learnings and then put them into the real world, it's those consequences. And that's the other thing that we're teaching other people. But what I like about what you just said about the general public coming to it, to the venue, to the Lunar Landscape Experience as a venue, as a destination, is that we're going to be showcasing, what corporations are doing and showing what they can, because, the general public drives down the road and they may see a brand or whatever and go, they do this and this. They don't realize that they're actually looking at innovation to help with safety. A lot of these car companies, that are out there, they're having to look at, they're looking at electric as the way forward, which apparently it's accelerated faster than they thought. It was going to be 2036, they thought it was going to be a big explosion of electric vehicles. Well, they're now saying it's going to be 2024 when it really starts to explode. So it's accelerating on an exponential scale. And so these car companies are having to look at innovation. Well, the general public, they don't know what these guys are doing. And we want to be able to showcase this innovation in such a wonderful environment, which is a learning environment. But to be quite honest, when I look at it now, it's an innovation center. It really is. It's showcasing innovation.
It is, and I think that's a real opportunity for companies to be able to connect with the general public. I wanted to make it clear that yes, we're talking about students, but we're also talking about the general public because we want to educate everybody. Okay, yep. and of course, somebody that's somebody's grandfather is probably not going to consider a degree in a STEM field if they haven't already gone down that path. But that's not the point. The point is to educate them, show them what's happening under the umbrella, if you will, of manned space flight and space exploration, which by any measure is the leading edge of science at any given time, right? And so, but it gives corporations that are also doing some equally innovative and really mind-blowing research right now. It also can give them an opportunity within that environment to basically show off some of the innovations and some of the creativity they have as well.
Well, unfortunately, we're coming up to the end of our segment because we could talk forever on this.
There's so much to it.
There's so much to talk about. But I know I'm going to be having you back on because I'd like to deep dive into some of those innovative things that we just touched on. But I want to use a word that was used in a conversation I had earlier this week with a colleague of yours, and it was edutainment. Yes. And I think that is something that is really, really important. That yes, we're going to entertain. We touched on that earlier, but we're going to educate as well. Not just students, which is important. They're the future workforce of America.
That's right.
That's exactly. We've already put a segment together on Business Class News that focuses on all the great things corporations are doing. But also,
very important.
It is very important because, unfortunately, we're falling behind. We know the stats are saying that, so that's why it's important to put this in front of all these people. And so I'm getting all excited about this, but it's one of those things. But the entertainment side of things for, as you say, the general public, they come in. We've got the stage, we've got a great restaurant, etc. They come in and they also experience all of the innovation that we just talked about.
Absolutely. We want it to be a destination. We want it to be a fun place to come. And you might learn something while you're here.
Well, there's nothing better to go and have a great meal, see some great music, and also be immersed, as you say, in all of this technology that is around. And so, Eric, thank you for joining me this morning. It's been a very educational and edutainment segment.
It's been a very edutainment, yes.
I like that. I might have to. No, I can't trademark it.
Well, you know where the word came from, right?
Well, please.
It's actually Walt Disney.
Oh, really?
Yes. Walt Disney, the person, not Walt Disney, the place.
Right,
okay?
right. He said that. He said that, did he?
He coined the term edutainment.
I did not know.
And it fits what we're doing so perfectly that we just can't not use it.
No, exactly. And with such a great person, if you could see who's in front of me, because my first client was Disney. I've got Mickey, I've got Donald Duck, and I've got all sorts of other characters, all the original artwork in front of me. So, edutainment. Thank you so much, Mr. Disney.
Exactly. Yes.
Well, Eric, I am so excited about this project. I'm looking forward to seeing this come to a fruition and to make it happen. It's gonna be such an amazing, as you say, destination. So thanks.
It really is. Thank you.
Of course, that was Eric Lennington, Chief Technology Officer over at Back to Space. And we just talked about their great venture, that destination. We talked about, the Lunar Landscape Experience. All the renderings and all of the details are actually on our website, Business Class News as well. So check it out because, we'll be, taking this journey from these conversations all the way to the grand opening because this is going to be an amazing, amazing place to visit. So thanks again for joining me this morning. It's been great to have you as viewers and listeners all around the world. And as I always say, go out there, have some fun, make some money because, hey, we're business class news. So we have to go and make some money because we wouldn't be in business if we didn't. And also be safe out there. So until the next time, have a great day. Bye.